Hi, this is Kiana Miner. Welcome to Crazy Courage TV, where we are busting success myths and learning how to live more courageously. Today, I'm so excited about our conversation. We're going to be talking with Denise Duffield Thomas. Denise is an author, a coach, and a motivational speaker. She's author of the bitch. Oh gosh. She's author of the book Get Rich Lucky Bitch. And I'm just super excited to talk to her today. Welcome, Denise. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's so exciting. We're on opposite sides of the world that we
It
can connect.
is. It is. What time is it for you?
It's about lunchtime.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. It's 8:30
Yeah.
p.m. here. So yeah, I love how we can talk and have these type of conversations on Skype. The internet's an amazing place.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So, Denise, just so that we can get to know you a little more, could you tell us about your most courageous moment, either personal or professional?
Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot because I know sometimes people want to hear the one thing, like the one story. And I have to say, honestly, that my whole business has been a series of courageous moments because I think when you're in business for yourself, it can be really scary. And everything that's scary, it's scary until you do it and then it's not scary anymore.
Right.
So I remember the first time, telling a client that, their session was almost up. And at the time, that felt really scary to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we've only got 10 minutes to go," or like,
Right.
it's on the hour. I'm sorry, we have to finish.
Hmm.
And that at that time felt so scary to me. Now I would have no problem doing it, but now there's other things that are scary. So I honestly say it's been years of tiny little courageous moments that felt big at the time, but then weren't. And most of them, which is funny because now I work with money and money blocks,
Hmm.
were around money. Like having awkward conversations around money. Like the first time a client defaulted a payment,
Right.
that was terrifying, and then it wasn't,
Hmm.
and so I think I'm just most proud that I've just continued. I've been persistent, and I've really learnt that success in business comes from just being persistent and going through those scary moments.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you kind of reached back and talked about some of those beginning scary moments. Because I think we forget about those. We forget, especially when we're bumping up against new challenges, it feels like it never stopped being scary. But like you said, we
Mhm.
get over sort of those beginning challenges and then we come face to face with new ones. But it's nice to acknowledge how much we've grown. I think that that's important.
It is, and it's also important for new entrepreneurs to know
Mhm.
that the fear is normal,
Right.
that everyone's got it. And,
Mhm.
it's normal to freak out about success, which is weird, right? Because we think we're in business to create a life of freedom, adventure, and abundance for ourselves. What's to be scared about? And
Mhm.
actually, it's totally normal to be terrified all the time.
Right.
And it gets easier,
It
but then you
does.
get new things to be scared about. But then once you realize that everyone's scared, you kind of feel okay about it.
And you feel okay moving forward, even though you're feeling that fear. Like you kind of develop ways to deal with it. You mentioned some money blocks. What are some of the money blocks that you've had to get over?
The biggest one for me was that it has to be hard to make money, and you
Okay.
have to work really hard to
Okay.
make money. And I think that comes a lot from women who grew up in families that don't have a lot of money or didn't have a lot of money, because you see your family. My mum is an assistant nurse. She
Right.
is on her feet all day long on her
Mhm.
shifts. A lot of us have got parents who have, worked really hard with their hands, or they've worked in a shop, or they've made things.
Mhm.
And, so it's not a surprise that a lot of women share that belief with me that it has to be hard to make money. And when you start an online business or you're an entrepreneur,
Right.
especially if you love what you do,
Right.
it can actually bump up against some of those guilty feelings
Mhm.
when success is too easy, which not many people talk about. You
Right.
think, well, of course we want to make money, but you forget that sometimes other things come into play that will kind of trigger you a little bit and make you feel guilty about it.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Both of my parents are actually, my mother was a nurse when I was younger. My father worked for the post office. So both kind of physical, jobs, hard jobs, I guess, not necessarily
Long
physical, but
hours.
hard, yes, long hours. So I definitely agree with you on that. I actually remember going to a business coach once, and we were discussing some of the things I would have to let go of in order to be successful. And I remember telling her like sort of a fear of ease, of easy success or of ease with success. And she had no idea what I was talking about. And I thought I can't be the only one who has this, sort of that trepidation of, well, shouldn't I be working really hard for this? And if I'm not, you know, that I might start sabotaging it because it was just too easy. So I love that that's one of the things
Yeah.
you talk about.
It's really common. And you're right, women do start to sabotage it. So they sabotage it by burning themselves out. Like even though they might not have to work really hard, maybe they procrastinate during the day, or they procrastinate so they have to do everything last minute. So it creates that adrenaline rush and that stress. Sometimes women start to manifest bills, like you create drama around your money because it's too easy, and so you're just pushing it away. So it's incredibly common.
Okay. Have you found that in the work you've done with yourself in clearing those blocks, and even the work that you've done with other women, that you've been able to permanently clear that block? Or is it something that you're constantly working on?
So the analogy that I used today with somebody was, it's like brushing your teeth.
Okay.
So no matter how rich you get, you still have to get up and brush your teeth every day. Not because you're a bad person, not because you don't deserve to have nice teeth, but because that's just how life works, right? Your teeth get dirty and you have to clean them. So I see money blocks in the same way, is that sometimes women, we make up stories, and we've made up a story about that we've got money blocks so we don't deserve to have money. And that's not true. I think it's pretty much the business of being in business that you're going to come across mental blocks, and every day maybe you just have to do things in place to release those. So no, I really don't think there's any permanent solution, but you don't have to let those money blocks stop you from being successful. You just learn how to, on a daily basis, give yourself permission to make money.
Okay, yeah, I love that. And I do think it's certainly it's something daily that we have to commit ourselves to. What type of things do you do as far as self-care, whether it's to keep your health together, to make sure consciously you're staying in a positive mindset? What type of self-care things do you do on a regular basis?
I think the most powerful thing that I recommend for women is a practice of self-love and self-forgiveness.
Okay.
Because we really attack ourselves. Most of the blocks that I see come from a place of, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. I am wrong. I am broken. I am unlovable. I am imperfect. I don't deserve.
Okay.
And whenever your money blocks come up, or any kind of belief blocks, first port of call is to really practice self-love and self-forgiveness. Because then you allow yourself to receive, you allow yourself to for good things to happen to you, you allow yourself to receive money, and it really does dissipate some of those bad feelings.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, yeah. And I love the focus on self-love and self-forgiveness, so I think that that's really, really important. Awesome. So I know you have the book, Get Rich Lucky Bitch. Could you talk a little bit about that and some of the concepts in that book that you help women with?
Sure. So yeah, my book, Get Rich Lucky Bitch, it really is kind of a funny take, as well as, quite serious take on money blocks. And it's kind of it's an easy read for people, I think. I like to think of it as a gateway drug into loving talking about money.
Okay.
So some of the concepts I talk about in there are around some of the messages that we've received around money. Um, One thing I talk about in the book, which I want to talk more about in my blog, is some of the celebrity role models that we've seen around money and what they've taught us.
Okay.
And it's really interesting how you can see blocks play out sometimes in the public arena. You know, you see women who make a lot of money, and then for some reason or other, you know, they go bankrupt, they push it away, they have bad marriages and lose it all. And it's really interesting. And so one of the examples I have in the book is around Rihanna and how she didn't make very much money out of one of her tours because she found out that, you know, someone was taking some of her money. She had a really bad agreement in place, and she wasn't being the boss of herself and her career. And so she was making less money than her promoters, you know, and it wasn't until she kind of took back that power, and that is a huge block that I think those women who are in that public arena can teach us, and it's not giving your power away, especially to men in your life, because men talk about money in ways that it's very confident sometimes, and so it's easy for us to believe that they know what they're talking about because they sound like they know what they're talking about, right? So you see a lot of celebrities who have been ripped off by their managers, or you know, people have stolen money from them, and they say, I just thought that they were looking out for me, you know, like I just trusted them with everything. And so that's I think that's a really big lesson that we can learn from celebrity women, especially if you don't know anyone in your life, like you don't have any good role models around women and money. You know, maybe you don't. I know for me, I didn't have anyone. I had never met a rich woman really before in my life. So, you know, I talk about things like that in my book, how we can identify some of our blocks using people like celebrities or family members or things like that. And so I think everyone should grab it. It's a really fun read about money.
Yeah, it is. I love it. And I love how fun it is, how fun and light it is about this topic. But it's very, even though the language is fun, it has some really great tips. Like it's very solid information about how to move past sort of these money blocks and really step into, you know, the business women that we were meant to be. So I love that. So
Yeah, thank you.
oh yeah, you're so welcome. So how long have you been in business now for yourself?
Um, you know what? I've been a serial entrepreneur. Sorry, I can hear my phone buzzing.
Oh no, that's okay.
I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole life,
Okay.
but you know what? I never made money out of it because I wasn't aware of these money blocks.
Okay.
So you know, I started businesses um, in you know, being a teenager. I started businesses in my 20s. I started businesses, and I just never got past that whole charging thing. You
Okay.
know, I really struggled with that. And so it wasn't until my late 20s when I started really exploring my money blocks.
Mhm.
That's when my business ideas started to get traction.
Okay.
And it's gone amazingly since then. You know, that's kind of been about 4 or 5 years ago that I started specifically working just to my money blocks. So I think there are a lot of women like that who know they're destined to be an entrepreneur. They've wanted to be an entrepreneur their whole life, but the money side of it just feels like it's like a cement wall in front of them. You
Okay.
know, and for those women, I say, you know, you have to deal with your money blocks because talent and ambition are not enough
Mm-mm.
if you can't see what's in front of you and you can't see what's blocking you.
I agree with you, and I've also have been an entrepreneur or felt like an entrepreneur for a very long time. But I always felt myself working harder for other people than I would for myself. You know, like when it came to working on someone else's project, I would be all in, fully alive, just working very well, helping other people succeed. But when it came for working for myself, I kind of shied away from really putting myself out there. So I can understand exactly what you mean about how money blocks or just blocks in general can keep you from succeeding in business. Yeah. What you
Yeah.
there was a blog you posted recently about introverts and how introverts can succeed in business, and I love that blog post. Can you talk a little bit about that? About Because I think some women do suffer with that as well, like thinking that their introvertedness is a weakness when in fact they can still be successful in business.
Absolutely. Well, I am an introvert and I build my business around what feels good for me.
Okay.
So I actually don't do a lot of live networking, but I love doing interviews. That feels really safe for me. So I think it's important for introverts to find ways of doing their business
Hmm.
that completely honor, that need. But I think it's a wider thing as well. So a lot of us have excuses. We've all got our own excuse about why we're not allowed to be successful or wealthy or whatever it is. You know, I you know, I had a friend at school and she would say, oh, that person's short, they'll never be famous or something like that. And I just
Right.
remember thinking, that's really weird, but we've all got our own stories
Right.
about why we're not allowed to be successful.
Hmm.
Whether it's like, well, I'm a woman, so therefore I can't be X, and it's
Hmm.
we've all got them. And so whether it's you think, well, I'm an introvert, I can't have X, or I'm a woman, so I can't have that, whatever your excuses are, they're crap,
Right.
basically. And you have permission to create success exactly the way you are.
Hmm.
And I actually even thought recently, I was like, oh, well, I can't ever be on Oprah because I'm too fat.
Right.
And it just was a thought that came up, and I was like, what? Like, Oprah's not skinny.
Right.
She hasn't let that stop her, but it was just an excuse. It could have been any other excuse.
Right.
So I think introvert, whatever you are, you have to embrace it, do some self-love and acceptance,
Hmm.
and give yourself permission to be successful exactly how you are now.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's awesome because I think that we do, these things just kind of pop up and you're like, well, I can't, be successful because of this reason or that reason. And we need to move past them because usually anything we can think of as a reason to stop, someone else has had that same experience and they've kept going. So, we have that power too. When you first started talking about money, and I know you mentioned this in your book, when you first started talking and helping women with money, you talk about having to get over blocks with that as well, like even just feeling like you could teach other people about money. Do you feel like you have a certain type of mastery now that you've been doing it for a little while?
Um, yes, I do, and I
Mhm.
still sometimes
Yeah.
have that feeling.
Mhm.
That fraud feeling is
Mhm.
so common for women
Mhm.
in business, and I think a lot of us feel that way sometimes. I'm not enough. I don't know enough. I'm not perfect. I'm not old enough, or I'm too old, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I think what's changed for me, and what I try and encourage other women to do, is just to go, well, I am enough. Like, how I teach it is different to how other people teach it, and it's okay for me to teach it in my way. I don't have to be perfect, and more importantly, you don't have to be everything to everyone. It's
Mhm.
okay just to teach it the way you want to do, however, wherever you're starting from, because there'll be someone who just needs to hear it from you.
Right.
So I'm okay. I say I suffer from probably normal levels of feeling like a fraud
Mhm.
nowadays.
Mhm. Okay, normal levels. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, it always comes up because you're like, why am I? Are you not sure I should be teaching this? And then you delve into your story and you're like, well, I just have information to share, and that's usually what it is. Like, okay, I've overcome this obstacle and I just have information to share. So, yeah, I love that. Okay, so I usually have three questions that I ask every person who comes on the show, and these are my fun questions. So don't take them too seriously, just answer them with whatever comes to mind as I ask. And the first question is, what is your favorite book? Not besides your own, of course.
um, can it be fiction or non-fiction?
It can be fiction, yeah. Either way, either one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say one of my very favorite money books is How to Be Wildly Wealthy Fast by
Okay.
Sandy Forster.
Mhm.
She's a great mentor of mine. She's Australian as well, and she's now a good friend of mine too. And her book her book really, really helped me, I think. And I would also say 4 Hour Work Week was something that really shifted my mindset around business.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, for tactics, because I think he teaches a lot of product kind of based businesses, and he doesn't quite understand women, but it's a real mindset shift around how you can create your own freedom
Mm-hmm.
in your work world. So there too.
Okay. Okay, I love both of those. And 4 Hour Work Week was actually one of the ones I first started reading when I discovered the world of internet, being the internet entrepreneur. And I remember at the time I was a consultant for like Fortune 50 companies, and I was working a lot. I mean, I was making a lot, but I was working a lot. So I barely had time to even have fun with the money. And just the idea that you could work and have meaningful work and have time to enjoy your life was like groundbreaking for me. So, yeah, those are two great books. Okay, what about your favorite guilty pleasure?
I love reading gossip sites.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I love going to the movies.
Okay.
I religiously watch the Oscars every year and the Golden Globes and things like that. But I like reading gossip sites that are kind of smart, have a smart take on gossip. So
Okay.
I love reading LaineyGossip.com because she has a really smart and fun analysis, and she's really smart herself. So
Okay.
she doesn't post really nasty, made up gossip. Like she actually, it's quite fun and insightful, I think,
Okay.
about the human nature. So that's definitely my guilty pleasure is Hollywood gossip.
Okay, awesome. How fun. Okay, and the last question is what about a habit that didn't wasn't really natural to you, but you've had to hardwire into your life in order to be successful?
Good question.
Thank you.
For me, that is tracking money.
Okay.
So I use apps on my phone to track expenses, personal expenses,
Okay.
and I have a bookkeeper to track my business expenses. But I personally track my business income every single day. So I have a spreadsheet that I update. I pretty much update it twice a day, morning and night, and that was a habit change for me because I never even used to open my bank statements. I never wanted to open my credit card statements. I wanted to be totally in denial about money.
Mhm.
Um, and what you put your attention on does grow.
Okay.
So I wasn't probably a natural.
Okay.
Who knew I would be talking about money seriously? Because I had to really teach myself and unlearn some really bad habits around money.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I love that. I love that example, and I remember reading that in your book. And just the question of now you have a lot of money flowing in. You know what I mean? But before you really had that flow established, how did you do the tracking without feeling anxious? Like, are all of my bills going to get paid? Is everything going to get taken care of? Like, how did you sort of maintain peace in tracking your income?
Yeah. So that's a good question, and I think what made the shift for me was the realization that my mindset affected my money.
Okay.
So when I was tracking and there'd be like zero,
Mhm.
and I wrote it on there, zero.
Okay.
I had to, in that moment, stop myself from thinking bad thoughts.
Okay.
And sometimes those situations are a gift, right? Because you can sit and go, what are my blocks around money? What am I scared of about money? But when things are good,
Right, right.
you can't, you don't know what they are.
Right.
It's in those moments sometimes that are hard that you have to stop and go, wow, this is what I'm thinking about money. And it
Okay.
could be a story like, I'm never going to make money from this. This is stupid. I should get a job. I'm never going to have a life of freedom. In those moments, you have to recognize them, and then at least you can clear them.
Okay. Okay. I think those are great tips. Now, what about, could you share an example? We've talked about your story some. Could you share an example of someone you've worked with, a success story where you've helped a woman clear her money blocks and she, went on to do amazing things?
Oh man, honestly, I've got heaps of stories. So we've got about, I think, almost 1,300 women in the Money Boot Camp at the moment.
Okay. Oh,
And,
right now.
it's really fascinating because you know how, yeah, right now, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And they're all at different stages. Some are just starting to work on their money blocks.
Okay.
Others have come back and gone, oh, new income, new money
It
blocks,
is.
or the same money blocks have come up again. So it's like everyone's kind of cycling in and out.
Okay.
But I think it's so there are so many stories of people who were really good at what they did but didn't charge anything for it, who are now realizing that it's okay for them to receive money. It's
Okay.
okay for them to create lots of money. So we've had many women in there who had never made six figures in their business, who now make six figures.
Okay.
People who were just starting out, who now have a full-time business. We've had lots of people quit their jobs from being in the boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really beautiful community of women who are in the conversation. None of us are perfect, but we're all in this conversation of money, and constantly upgrading our lives. And this is the cool thing too, when you start to work on your own money stuff, you impact so many people around you, and it can really have a positive impact on all of our communities when we work on our own money blocks.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's very powerful, and I think that's one of the best results of working on your own money blocks is that everyone you come in contact with kind of opens up as well, and even people in your inner circle. Like I've found that even before I've even told people that this was something I was focused on, they would start to get, they would start to see results too, which is kind of funny. So that's awesome.
It is,
Yeah.
it is, and it's funny because I use a transcriber from Fiverr. I use her every week to do my blog posts.
Mhm.
And after a couple of months, she's like, my prices are increasing, because I thought she's just listening to that every single day. And, I'm constantly telling people to increase their self-worth so they
Right.
can charge more and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, I'm increasing my prices. And I was so happy to pay that because,
Oh, that's awesome.
it's just women get so empowered when they charge beautifully for what they do.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and you can show up fully in your role and in your work too when you're getting the price that is fair for what you're giving. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, what are you
Yeah.
working on now? What's coming up for you in your business?
Um, so my big focus for 2015 is to absolutely increase the amount of women who are releasing their money blocks.
Okay.
So my goal for 2015 is to invite 1,000 women into the Lucky Bitch Money Boot Camp,
Oh, nice.
which is a big goal.
Yeah, that is a
Yeah.
big goal. Oh, that sounds amazing. But I have no doubt that you'll be able to achieve that with the impact that you're having on women already. So that's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
When does the next boot camp run?
So the boot camp is evergreen,
Okay.
so women join every day.
Okay.
Um, and a beautiful community of women. And yeah, I think 2015 is going to be incredibly powerful for women in business.
Okay.
And I think everyone listening, you play a part in that, and it's your time to really harness the opportunities that we have. We've got amazing opportunities. We've got the technology. We've got, the inspiration. We can completely create our own rules. So everyone listening, 2015 is your time to release any of those blocks that you have to creating the life that you want.
Okay. I love that. Yeah, and I can feel that 2015 is going to be an awesome year. Just one
Mm-hmm.
last question, because I know you have a little one. How old is your son now?
I've got a daughter,
Oh, a
and
daughter. Sorry about that.
she's 9.5 months old.
Oh, very sweet. How has that changed the work that you do? How has she impacted it?
Um, yeah, so it's made me even more determined to help women
Okay.
because, I feel so blessed that I've been able to stay at home with her while still making a great income, that I've been able to afford people to help me,
Okay.
not only with her but with my business.
Mhm.
And it's made me more determined than ever to help women. have that kind of life of freedom, adventure, and abundance, which is, something that I work towards. So I think that's really helped me in that way, and really see it from a female point of view as well, to think, well, I want her to not have to go the route that a lot of us went. A lot of us did go into jobs that we hated and worked really hard and all that kind of stuff, and that was a great catalyst to then do what we wanted to do. But it'd be great for the next generation and her generation to not have to do that, and to go straight into doing what they want to do and earning good money for it. That's really what drives me since having a baby.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I have a 3-year-old and then a 12-month-old son. He's a year. And and so I've never felt more grateful to be an entrepreneur and have taken an empowered position in my life than with them. They make me, so grateful, and just have gratitude every day that I can be with them and spend time with them and do meaningful work. So yeah, I had to ask you about that. Awesome.
Amen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, our time is almost up. Did you have any last thoughts on courage or business or money?
Yeah, I just want every woman listening to know that you can do this. And why not you? Because everyone feels the fear. Everyone has moments of self-doubt. So why not just take that little courageous step forward? Because that's all it takes sometimes. It doesn't mean you have to have everything sorted. It doesn't mean you have to be brave every second of the day. You just take those little courageous steps forward, and some things will just, rise up to support you. And it's your time.
I agree with that. I think courageous moments, like building up enough courage in different moments, it doesn't have to be ongoing, because we do all become afraid at some point in our lives and in our business. But to be able to build up those courageous moments to keep going, yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a beautiful sentiment. Well, thank you so much, Denise, for being here with us today. And thank you, everyone, for watching another Courageous Conversation. The conversation doesn't have to end here. Head over to crazycourage.com to answer our question of the week, which is, I want everyone to just name one thing they're going to do this week to strengthen their self-love. So whatever your favorite self-love activity is, your self-care activity, what is that, and what are you going to do this week to help strengthen your self-love with yourself? So thanks again. If you found this conversation inspiring, like it, share it amongst your circle. And until next week, I'm wishing you much love, joy, and crazy courage. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. While you're at crazycourage.com, go ahead and sign up for our email list, where you'll get training on how to be your most courageous self. Don't forget that Crazy Courage TV airs every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you soon. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your tribe. We'll see you next week for another courageous conversation. Until then, I wish you much love, joy, and crazy, crazy courage.